scrie tensiunile la care merge. S-ar putea să fie din cauza adaptorului la care îl are ea, să fie doar pentru anumite tensiuni.
Păi, nu e aceeași modalitate.
Păi nu, cum pic la fel.
Stai promovez de cineva, a? E greu.
Poți să stau pe asta oare?
Să vadă el. Da, și m-am trezit când să plătesc la casă, că nu înțeleg toată portofelul și mi s-au tăiat toatele. Am ajuns într-un stres, m-am zis în cameră.
Unde era? L-ai uitat
Da, în
cameră?
cameră, da. Scosese și n-am băgat tot în geam.
Deci nu ți-ai luat nimic?
Ba da, că am găsit pe altcineva care o plăti. And I'm gonna count you.
Ok.
Guidey ho!
It's an SOS with valve.
11.
Ha? E un Lincoln? Iulian, e un Lincoln?
Da, la Lincoln.
Da, știu, păi e una din mașinile de lux. Dar fii atent de câte sunt.
Marea majoritatea mașinilor peste media la 3000.
3000 de litri te referi sau la ce?
La litri, de 3000 de litri și automat.
It should go up and over the hills. It was a very simplistic system, and we'll drive by one of the real cable cars. Some of you might want to take one to come back from the Fisherman's Wharf. It cost $5, and but hey, you got a free ride right now. So the other option from the Fisherman's Wharf will be to take a trolley, and the trolley will actually come up Market Street from the Fisherman's Wharf. It's much faster and it's much cheaper. $1.50. So those who want to hang out and wander in the Fisherman's Wharf, you can come back with the F Market. It's called the F Market trolley. It comes all around the Embarcadero. You see the beautiful views on the bay. And you get off on Powell and Market Street, and you'll be just a block or two from the hotel. Okay? That's for your information. San Francisco is a much bigger city, but it's actually surrounded by 6 million, the population around the bay. Some of the bigger cities, San Jose has now over 1.2 million. And then you also have Oakland, which is the Bay port, and it is located on the other side of the Bay Bridge. We saw it as we were going to Tiburon. And then of course you have Berkeley. Some of you have heard of University of Berkeley. It's next to Oakland on the other side of the Bay Bridge. Now we're located right in the Union Square neighborhood. We're surrounded by what I call the heart of the city. We're surrounded by stores, some of you have already noticed, and also theaters. And this street right here is Gary, and to the left of us we'll be going by, there's 3 theaters, there's several in the city itself, and basically we consider San Francisco is one of our hills. The closest hill here to Union Square is Snob Hill. Sometimes we joke and we call it the Snob Hill. This was where the wealthy people first moved when we came to San Francisco after the gold rush. They had nice views. And as we're coming down to Union Square, you'll point your cameras to the left up Mason Street and you'll see one of the more steep slopes. This is one of the streets where people have to park perpendicular. In San Francisco, the hills cause a lot of danger for cars. And and they decided too many cars would lose their brakes at night when they cool off and cause accidents. So if you look up the street, you'll see people parked perpendicular to the street. And up there on top are some of the hotels, the Fairmont Hotel, Mark Hopkins Hotel, and so on. So here we're coming up to Union Square. On the right we have St. Francis Hotel. Now to us, the St. Francis is ancient. It was actually built in 1905. Then we had the earthquake in 1906, and it's one of the few buildings in the downtown area that survived. They were able to spare it from the fire, and they have renovated it and added a nice modern tower in the back side of it. We're also going to be crossing Powell Street, and this is where one of the cable car lines still exists. There are 3 lines left. There were some 27 lines at one time. There are only 3 left because they're very primitive, and basically the way they work is there's one big engine room on the top of the hill, and it is constantly moving 3 cables, 3 lines, at 12 kilometers per hour. Each line can hold about 12 cars, and they just keep moving up and down the hills. The system is so primitive that the driver basically has a grip, and he grabs onto the cable when he wants to go up the hill. So there's one coming up right now. Look to your right. Oh, behind the bus. There's one coming up right now. When he wants to move forward, he grips onto that cable. When he wants to stop, he lets go of the cable and has another grip to get on the brakes. Here you have your Macy's. Wow, we're celebrating. We're always celebrating at Macy's, and now it's 150 years. Of what? I'm not sure. But in any case, Union Square is now, of course, when California joined the Union, it was a Unionist state, and this was where they celebrated that feat. And ever since, it has been a place where we have concerts. We have the people ice skating around New Year's. We have all kinds of festivities and demonstrations and all kinds of groupings of people. It's what I call the heart of the city, because here you always have people mulling around and shopping, having coffee, enjoying the wonderful weather or the fog.
Especially
For those of you who want to go shopping, down right straight down is Market Street. I think some of you have already seen it. On the corner is the Apple Store. Across the street is the Old Navy, the Ross. This street right here, Post, is if you want to spend your money very fast, because this is where you have all the stores like Bulgari, you have Cartier, Saks Fifth Avenue, Shreve, and if you want to get some jewelry that's really typically from San Francisco, you go to Gump's. Look up in front to your right, and there you have a jewelry store that is really just located here in San Francisco. As we're going up towards this green gate, we're going to be entering Chinatown. Chinatown is the most concentrated neighborhood of San Francisco. We have a population of about 30,000 people that are concentrated in a neighborhood of 3 blocks by 8 blocks. We speak in blocks because all our streets are parallel and perpendicular, and it creates these squares. And this is the neighborhood where we have a Chinese population that established themselves here even before the gold rush. And at the end of the gold rush, were the first to be discriminated against, and they came back to San Francisco and began to build right next to the port. It was a very successful economic spot. We also have a little French neighborhood that I always like to point out since I'm French. If you look to the right, you have Café La Presse, and right down the street is an alley with a bunch of French restaurants. So they like to call this the French neighborhood, with the consulate to the left, and a church that actually still gives mass in French. But here we're entering Chinatown. If you want to make great deals, buy lots of t-shirts for very little money, this is the great place for souvenirs. But it also has a lot of semi-precious stones, all kinds of embroideries, and some interesting antique shops. It is very tourist concentrated, and there are lots of electronic shops, but I will warn you, I call it a little bit the electronic mafia. They give great prices if you know how to barter. If you don't, I wouldn't go in. But they do have great selections, cameras and so on. Perpendicular to Grand Street, the tourist street, you have more typical neighborhoods of Chinatown. And it gets really fun and interesting to wander into these alleys, and you will find a lot of Chinese medicine stores where you go in and the walls will be covered with drawers. Each drawer will hold the different powders. You'll have people who will take your pulse and give you Chinese remedies. Now, most of these stores open late. They open around 10 o'clock in the morning, but they stay open till 8 or so at night. So some of you who might want to walk back, if you are big walkers, you want some exercise, to come back from the Fisherman's Wharf to our hotel is really 1.5 kilometers. It's not that far. So if you want to take a little hike, this could be fun. Okay. This street right here is California Street, and it's where we find the third cable car line. Many people recognize this street from films you might have seen. And the most famous one is Bullitt. Now you're all a little young, but Bullitt was where Steve McQueen was driving a 1963 Mustang. And he was flying down this hill with the police in pursuit. And if you notice, at the crosswalk, the street becomes flat. Wherever we have cable cars, you have to make the street flat so that the cable car can stop. Well, this is a great platform for cars to fly, because when they come down here without stopping, it takes them up in the air. This is California Street going up Mount Hill. Going up Mount Hill. Down and we're facing our financial district. And the financial district in San Francisco is where you have our main industry. The Bank of America to the right is one of the tallest buildings. It has 50 floors. It used to be called the Banco d'Italia. It was Antonio Giannini, who was a gentleman who, after the he gained quite a bit of money during the gold rush. And later on, during the earthquake, he was a very fastidious man. He came down right after the earthquake, 5 in the morning, and was able to collect as many papers that identified his clients before the fire came and swept through this area and destroyed everything. After the earthquake, he opened up his bank, and he was what they called the first democratic banker, and was able to lend money to people to rebuild the city, and then became very wealthy. So it was at one point the Banco d'Italia, now it's the Bank of America. This building you might recognize because it was also where they made the film The Towering Inferno. Of course, they didn't use this building. They made a model of it and filmed it in Universal Studios in Los Angeles. But it was this building that went on fire. So this neighborhood here is really one of the most important employers of San Francisco. Here you have banks that represent countries from all over the world. You have a lot of companies, multinational, national, that have offices here. We're going to be turning right on what we call Montgomery Street, but sometimes we call it the Wall Street of the West. And we'll be going right in front of the Wells Fargo Bank. How many of you heard of the Pony Express?
What?
The Pony Express, when we had the gold rush here, there was very little transportation between the East Coast and Washington, D.C., our capital. So they created a series of ponies. People, riders and ponies that could cross the country in 7 days. They would ride non-stop. They would change teams of horses and riders to bring money and exchange back and forth from the east to the west coast. It was the Pony Express, later turned into the Wells Fargo Bank. So we'll be driving, but it's right over there to the left is the main original base of the Wells Fargo Bank. Okay, so the second industry is tourism. Thank you. You're all here. We really appreciate you. But tourism and conventions are also a very important part of our economy in San Francisco. It's our second most important economy. And as you notice, all around Union Square, there are lots of hotels, and we have a convention center that can receive up to 80,000 people. In 2026. Here we might not be able to see it, but we might. On the right, we're coming up to a place where you can look. Oh, it's going to be the next block, where you can look at what rates the stock exchange have closed. Well, we are aligned with New York. The stock exchange is based in New York, and we are always 3 hours behind them. So when the stock exchange closes at 2 o'clock in New York, here, a lot of people who work in the financial industry go home. So that means they also come to work much earlier. This neighborhood, if you came back around 6 or 7, is dead. It's empty. Everybody's gone. Now, if any of you thought of San Francisco as one of the major cities in the United States, one thing it's not is we don't have a lot of tall skyscrapers relative to New York, Chicago, even Philadelphia, or Boston. We are limited because of our earthquakes. So it's interesting, when they started building skyscrapers in the 20s and 30s, San Francisco had to wait until the engineers found ways of building tall buildings with anti-seismic foundations. So we were very limited. In one way, we were fortunate, because by the time they discovered ways of building tall buildings, we realized we had to appreciate some of our older architecture. And this is a good example in front to the right. It's an older building that they decided to keep the outside of the building, and on the top they put a rooftop garden. Some of these buildings, they'll keep the old style on the bottom and build the tower right in the middle, so that we keep some of the older architecture.
Hai, dacă tot ești fotograf de...
Eu filmez, deci.
Da, nu.
Dar fii atent ce tunsă e, vezi? E tunsă, mă, e curățată, e...
Victorian house for very little, but sometimes they were selling them because they wanted to tear them out and put in modern condos, because that was more fashionable. How much is the house here? Well, in 1986, that house on the corner that you all stopped in front of, along freedom and anti-establishment lifestyles. This is a place where the picnics used to write, like Jack Kerouac and Allen Ginsberg. He wrote all kinds of essays and novels about what a romantic and beautiful place it was to live here, where lots of young people got together. All the stores only sold used goods. So you could only buy used clothes, used books, used records, and so on. And since then it's become very... Yes. Yes. Tell me what you need. Okay. Okay. Big Four made their fortunes during the gold rush. One of them was Stanford, who later went on to build and to develop the University of Stanford. Huntington, Hopkins, and Crocker. They were the Big Four families who joined their money together and built the Trans-American